days. We're just gonna wait for you guys.
Did you send out an agenda? I know you
Yes,
sent.
we did send an agenda out, because it went out like really quickly, because Rick got right on it for us and did a great job.
That's right.
It's out too early for you.
Too quick. Setting precedent.
So the first thing we're doing is we're having an informational meeting for the River Valley's annual meeting, which is February 13th down at the town hall in Dover. And the agenda for that meeting is as follows. 1, to elect a moderator to serve for the fiscal year July 1, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. And that'll be voted from the floor, which is a little different than how we've done things in Dover for a while. And we will be, and I believe Dr. Backus, I've talked to him, and he is willing to run for that position again. And Dr. Backus has been your moderator in Wardsboro for a couple days, right?
Yeah, a couple of years, you could
Couple,
say.
I'd say a few.
A couple decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
It's been a while.
Any questions on that, folks? The second thing is to elect a clerk to serve from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. And Andy McLean, the Dover Town Clerk, is willing to do that for us as long as we give him a stipend of $2,000 for the first year, because the, pardon?
That was 2,500.
No, I thought it was 2,000.
2,000. 2,000.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure 2,000. And that can obviously, again, be amended, at town meeting, or at the district meeting. And that's because the first year, the budget vote has to be commingled votes, and it just creates a lot more work. And that's why for the first year, and then he felt thereafter, if we change the way it's voted and or maybe find somebody else. Any questions on that? Article 3, to elect the WCSU treasurer to serve from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019. And we are allowed to elect the WCSU treasurer even though they don't live in the district. But one of the discussions is that if somebody really objects to that and pushes the issue, that we would maybe have to elect somebody who lives in the district to serve as the treasurer. And if we did that, they would have to live in town of Wardsboro, or town of Dover, to be a registered voter. And we, Marco Tellini, the Dover treasurer, has volunteered for that. The Wardsboro treasurer and clerk is the same person, and they want nothing to do with this new district.
Yeah, correct.
And so we checked with them, so Marco would be willing to do it, and we just put aside a stipend of $500 for the treasurer's position if it's not the WCSU treasurer, because the WCSU treasurer is already being paid through the supervisory union. Any questions, comments? Article 4 is to vote compensation for the school directors at $1,000 for FY 2019. So we kind of took a number between what Dover gets and what Wardsboro gets and wound up there. Article 5, the annual meeting is the second Tuesday in February, odd years in Wardsboro and even years in Dover at the town halls in the respective towns.
Yep.
Pretty easy.
Good.
Transact any other business thought proper to include the following. A, review of board of director meeting locations and dates. So the board of directors meet the first Mondays in Wardsboro at 7 o'clock and the third Mondays in Dover at 7 o'clock unless otherwise posted. Everybody good with that? Review the work done by the board of directors to this date. I'm gonna let somebody else handle that one. Well, we've adopted a lot of basic policies. We've adopted a mission statement, and hopefully, we're working on a vision statement and
So
guidelines.
why don't we, what if we were to divide that up? And everybody
Divide
take a little
one up.
piece of explaining that. What do you think?
That's fine, or somebody can
What do you
explain,
think?
just one person can do it, very easy.
What are we doing? Exactly.
Article 6. So just
Rick, you just got
kind of
nominated.
reviewing what we've done so far.
Okay.
So, I mean, it'd be, you know, if one, I have no, I mean, if one person wants to do it, that I think would be amazing. Or we could all share it.
Sounds good.
Do you have any questions about what we've done so far? No. I think our reporter and Anita have done very good at relaying that to everybody.
Will you have your work calendar available by then?
Well, that's the next part. See.
Okay.
Oh, the reporter has done for the newspaper that comes to our meetings and has done a wonderful job. Thank you. So the next thing is review the work calendar of the board of directors through September 2019. And I made some copies, I hope. You know what, I didn't, for some reason, I made double copies of something else. Shoot. So our work calendar is as follows. A lot of this stuff's been done. December through whenever we're gonna be we'll have to do contract negotiations with staff. January through March, we're working on our vision statement, guiding principles, I have five or so, and community engagement, which is gonna be discussed later on. March through May, we have programming the buildings, curriculum alignment, program enhancement, general discussions so the administration can utilize for their work over the summer, and not specific to positions, people, classes, but more guiding principles, with some questions of does IB fit in, transportation, and equal educational opportunities. And then June through July, the administration will be developing the specifics of the new unified school district. And this is where we let go of the reins and leading the ship to our world-class operation and allow the educational experts to do their work in designing the program that they believe meets and encompasses our mission, vision, and guiding principles. After listening to the discussion and work done by the boards during the spring and early summer, the board will still meet, however, these meetings will be for the administration to request more guidance from the board and the public so that we as a group, public, administration, and board are in agreement, understanding. And then we're hoping by August that the administration unveils the specifics of the new River Valley Unified School District, and the board and public work with the administration to complete the process as well as presenting it to the public. Possibly a longer work session, i.e. 3 to 9 p.m. dinner meeting, because I like food. Staffing, curriculum, grade structure, services, financial requirements, transportation, capital budgeting, equipment, and other needed assets will also be discussed. And then September through December of this coming year, September through of 2018, the board administration worked together to create a 2020 budget based on the work of the groups. The board creates the agenda for the annual meeting FY20, which will be in February 2019 in Wardsboro. And then October through November, the secondary school choice tuition to be recommended at the annual meeting. The board will have to discuss that because that'll have to be part of the budget. And then May through October 2019, we're going to work on buildings of attendance and transportation policies. And those are the two big policies that we haven't touched yet that we need to touch. So that's our board work calendar. Anybody, I think everybody's pretty much seen that, right? You guys, we went over it. I think we passed them out the last, you have too seen it.
No, not typed up.
I emailed it to you.
I didn't get it, Richard.
Who did you give?
I didn't get it.
Are we gonna,
Huh?
are we throwing that out?
No,
Meeting?
yeah, no. we can
I
have
would
it
have
out the next
posted it
meeting.
if I got it.
I just didn't make copies.
Yeah, I'll email you again with another request.
Okay.
Probably in a minute.
Can you email, you have my email?
No.
Well, I do.
Probably-
I'm sure. I'll find it.
I'm not gonna send it to you, but you can get it out of previous minutes on the website.
So review the work calendar we did. Discuss the election of directors representing Wardsboro.
Right, on the floor.
Yeah. Rick, you want to do that one? Or?
Sure.
So just discuss the election of directors representing Wardsboro. So we're gonna touch on at the meeting how that works.
Oh,
and-
how we meet.
Okay.
that, how
Sure, how
it's
we-
different, you know, how we elect and,
Yeah, how we're gonna have to do it by ballot, first time through.
yeah. So our articles of agreement that Rick didn't get to work on said that, that the election of directors will be by ballot at town meeting, at your town meeting, respective town meeting, because we don't have any at-large directors, nor do we have any combined directors. Some articles will have like 2 directors from each town, and then 2 at-large people that could be from either town, and everybody gets to vote. And we felt really strongly, especially when it was 3 towns that were having discussions, that we would want to vote by town so that there wasn't, Dover being a bigger town, I mean, we could have 4 seats versus 2, or Dover, Marlboro could split that, and then we wanted it to be fair. So we actually even set it up a way so that there was 3 directors from each town by putting a higher number on, saying that there'll be no less than 3 from each town until you get over a certain number. And we made the number fairly high so that we don't think, unless there's a huge influx of people into the area, that we should be hitting that within at least my lifetime. And Wardsboro would still like to maybe vote for their director from the floor at the town meeting instead of by ballot.
That's something, yeah, that they're traditionally done, so we don't need to bring that up at this meeting.
And we did, Andy did find out for us that we can do that. We can have voted different ways because we are specific to the town. And Rick and Barry and Dwight they're not sure how important it is to people in Wardsboro. So if a lot of people in Wardsboro say, nah, we don't really care, then, you know, it's nothing to worry about. Or if they really want to do that from the floor again, then we can do that at the next town meeting, or the next meeting.
Right, the meeting the following year.
Right, the 2019 meeting.
Townwide meeting.
So, will we discuss that this year's town meeting?
We're just, you should discuss it in the Wardsboro
There's no
town
election
meeting.
this year, obviously.
Right, because we did a 2, 3, and 4-year term.
Yep.
So there is no election the first year.
Okay.
Any questions on that? We got nobody from Wardsboro but you, right? I mean,
Right, that's gonna need some explaining.
That is gonna need some.
No, and-
When we get around to that, into 2019 or something, because people won't remember from this year to the next, what we discussed in 2018 for 2019, so we're gonna need to do some PR on that, I think, townwide
Okay.
or something, the voting.
And Rick, you know, we're definitely, I think the 3 of us from Dover, whatever you guys want, we're there for you.
Okay.
So but I think it would be good coming from somebody from Wardsboro to discuss that.
Does it need to be in the warning for either the night before or the day of?
I think you can discuss it under other business, but
Yes, yeah.
we just put it under other business, and we
Okay.
just did those so that we would remember to discuss those items, and kind of give people a warning that it's out there to be discussed.
Does it have to be binding?
No,
No.
no, it's a discussion,
It's a
it's not a
discussion.
vote. Because remember, it's to discuss,
Don't remember.
Because that's something we can do, right?
yeah,
We can
to
make-
transact any other business thought proper to include the following. So it says to discuss
Okay.
the election. It doesn't say to make any motions or decisions.
All right.
And then to discuss the budget vote in February 2019, as well as budget votes thereafter. And again, Dover votes budget from the floor, as does Wardsboro.
Correct.
We were required by Act 46 to have our first vote by ballot. So we have to do that by ballot, but we can change that. And we thought it'd be a good time to discuss it. And again, it's not a decision, it's just a discussion to get input from people, because people may say, a lot of people may say, no, we like the idea of voting for it by ballot, or they may say that we want to vote from the floor like we used to at this annual meeting of the district. It wouldn't be at the town meeting, it would be at this district meeting in February. Any questions on that? And then other public concerns, and one of the things is we've been concerned about is getting input from the public. So one of Carrie's jobs was she was coming up with some kind of survey that we can pass around at the meeting. So do you want to go over that?
Sure, I mean,
Did you
it's
make
just,
enough copies?
I don't know.
If we just pass a couple out, they should share.
I mean, it's really just a kind of a starting point.
Right, it's great.
You guys have copies. I just passed them
sorry.
down.
You want more?
You got it. Oh, Rick needs one here.
That's a good check.
Oh, I did get two.
You did?
Yeah.
Here, Carrie, here's an extra one. You want one? I want to get him in front of the camera. Yeah. Turn around and say hi to the camera. You got one right, Peter?
I'm not sure I do.
Yeah, it's right there. Okay, go ahead, Carrie.
So I'm okay with coming up with some general questions in the content for the survey, but as far as preparing the survey, and if we're doing this online through SurveyMonkey, someone else has to do that. That's just not what I have knowledge about how to do, I'm sorry. But I mean, some of these questions you were asking about going forward, preparing the vision statement, what we think we're doing here, and you know, you've talked about, and it's been in the paper a couple times, of what's really the goal of the River Valley's Unified School District. Are we creating something wholly entirely from new? Or are we really looking at this as a hybrid of taking the best of what works in Wardsboro and Dover and coming something in between? Or are we just really one school board and we're just keeping the two schools as they are, as they have been, and not change much of anything? You know, what's really the vision? Because I think that we need to figure that out, because we keep coming back to what's the purpose, what's the goal, how should this look like? Right? That's certainly going to, I think, decide how we're going to have our vision statement, decide our policies, decide what we're going forward, how we're organizing it. So there's some general questions, but there's some more specific questions that I know that one with the survey, you wanted to know who it was that was answering the survey. You know, we're talking about voters in Wardsboro and Dover, also voters who have children in the school district, I think is important. Identifying who those people are and identifying people who are not primary residents, right? Because you're talking about the Unified School District, or people that are primary residents and people that have children in the district. You know, those are the people that we want to hear from, that are going to help make the decisions.
I like the way you phrase that, Carrie. Secondary residents and business owners.
Oh, good,
Yes,
right?
it's much
Nicer?
more truthful than the way
Okay.
we usually
Yes.
talk about those people.
You know, what considerations, and this is a hard one, in organizing the new River Valley Unified School District, you know, what are the most important considerations for the people that are taking the survey, for our voters? And I think probably all of these apply, but we want to know what's most important to them. Educational opportunities, cost savings, maintaining individuality of what works best in Wardsboro and how it operates now in Dover, or other ideas. Number 3, I think that's the biggest question that you keep asking, Rich, and thinking about all of these meetings and our work ahead. You know, really, what are folks thinking that the River Valley's Unified School District should look like? Again, we're one school board, but there are 2 schools. Are they still going to be 2 schools operating the way that they have done, and they do that very successfully? Or are we looking at this as really 2 campuses? And, you know, one school board, 2 campuses, and therefore they should be operating with a similar program, a similar plan. You know, again, I'm not sure what our constituents wants this to look like. That's the biggest question that we have. You know, something so basic as far as the school names, really. You know, we haven't talked about that, but I know that as far as the schools, the students, that's a big question that a lot of students keep asking me. You know, what's the name going to be? Are we going to be Dover School, or are we going to be Wardsboro School, or are we going to be something different? So that might not be important to the, you know, the adults, but the kids at least have asked me that, a lot of questions. And we want to know how information gets out to people, right?
I
Because we're
would
using,
maybe add one more to that,
Oh, hang on,
newspaper.
hang on. You can, you get to finish, and then we'll take questions.
So this is just very basic, and, you know, we can get into something much more, I think, challenging of like, what do you see as a vision statement? But that seems like we want those people to come to meetings or to participate in some way. But, you know, this was just a start, a draft, a place to begin.
Mhm.
So.
Great.
So, any comments from the board?
I do.
Well, go, ladies first.
So I think this is great. It's definitely sortable, which will be, you know, I like being, so we want to be able to, I think, have this arranged in SurveyMonkey
Mhm.
to the extent that we
Yes.
can get people to take it
Right.
electronically, I think will be really helpful. You know, number 3, I think you have to be careful when you're surveying about the questions that you ask, because you're going to get answers to the questions that you ask.
Right.
And so I think asking people if they would like us to continue to operate each school individually as before the creation of this is a very dangerous question to ask, because we're going to have one budget,
Right.
and Wardsboro has had budgeting priorities, and Dover has had budgeting priorities, and, you know, things that we felt were more worthy of investment, and Wardsboro has had things that they felt were more worthy of investment, and we're gonna have to reconcile somewhere there for all of our kids around that. So, you know, that, to me, I think we have to be very careful about the wording of that question. And I could think about maybe a suggested way to maybe reword it. But I think we don't want to set out the expectation that,
Things are gonna be exactly the way they were before.
yeah, that we can operate 2 programs that are not, that there's no financial reconciliation of.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Yeah, I would agree. We're creating one budget for both the schools. And this might be a little bit loaded, but I understand the sentiment behind the question. I think it needs to be in there, and we can reword it like you're saying. Yeah.
Oh, you know what, I'm sorry too. This was supposed to be later on in the agenda. We had this.
do you not want to be in there?
No,
We're in
that's
it, we're in
fine.
it
Let's,
now.
yeah, so this really doesn't have anything to do with the town with the school
No.
district meeting. I'm sorry. So, but let's, yeah, while we're in, Joy, can you?
No, that's all I wanted to say. I think it's a great start. Do you envision us contributing other questions to this as well, or?
Yeah, either saying, nope, let's start from scratch, adding things, and also how large of a survey you want. Ideally, I didn't think you wanted 2-page, 3-page survey. You want something of, you know, maybe 1 page so that people are inclined to answer and take the survey. So.
I notice on SurveyMonkey, a lot of times they'll say something like, this should take you like 2 minutes. And I
Yeah,
think if people see something that this should take you, 2 hours, they're gonna, but if it says this is gonna take you, takes the average participant 30 seconds to, or a minute to complete, people may be more apt to do it, so I think, somewhat short and sweet.
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't think you want to go more than 10 questions.
no. I think we may want to get after a little bit the 2 big policy issues to see if we can get some guidance
Mhm.
from the voters. So around transportation, so for instance, we could ask, do you want the board to work on a door-to-door service? Do you want stops?
Mhm.
Do you think it's important for, we could even ask people to rank what, would be budget priorities. That might be actually the thing to do, I don't know.
So let's do
Do
this.
we make money? Because there's people that
Yes,
do
we
this
have
for
some money.
There's people that do this for a living. Is it really
Rick, any
important
other
survey?
comments?
No, I'm good.
Nita?
I would just add on the last one, through the newspapers.
Yeah.
Some people don't do any of those things above, but they read the paper.
So without into real specifics, because I think, let's let this kind of also, everybody think about it though, but any other comments from, yes?
I was just gonna say on that number 2 where you're listing things, I wondered if you could almost list them, how important are these to you, and do a rating, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or somewhat important, very important, because I think that people are gonna wanna circle all of them
Yeah.
to some degree, but that way if you had a rating scale, that might help.
you're a teacher, right?
Yes.
And when you do a test, there's something that I read, like you're supposed to, if it says all the above, 9 times out of 10, that's the one you're supposed to circle as the correct answer. So should we put an all?
But that's when I trick them, see, because they've heard that before, so then I make sure that that's not the
So then you
answer.
have to kind of like read into the psyche of your teacher. So go ahead.
Not a question as much as an offer.
Offer a comment, yeah.
An offer, SurveyMonkey, it's something I know inside and out. I'd be more than happy to help with that.
You guys all set? Matt?
Nothing down.
So let's everybody think about this. If you have any ideas, email us. Or we can go to the website.
And when did you want to have this operational?
We're thinking sometime after the meeting. We were hoping actually for the annual meeting, maybe to have a kind of a version we could hand out,
Right.
so that we could do it at the district meeting, and we could do it at the Wardsboro meeting, and the Dover meeting, and then also, maybe then try to pull it in like the second week of March, so have like a 2 to 3 week period that it's out.
All right, because I'll just put a link to SurveyMonkey on the blog. You can go right to that. I can put it on the town website as well, take the school
How
survey.
do you prevent people from doing it multiple times, though?
They have to put their name,
There-
Demo.
You can do 2 different ways. You can actually require a name and then check it, or you can do it more simply by IP address.
IP.
Which is usually the way to do it. Doesn't guarantee you're not getting duplicates, but it guarantees somebody isn't doing, it 10 times from home or 10 times from their phone.
Okay. 'Cause
The other-
go ahead.
Excuse me, the other thing you would have is a date to say goodbye, a deadline date.
My only thought is so, like, could I fill 3 of these out of town meeting at the annual school district meeting? Can I fill 5 out of town meeting, and then I'll sneak over to Wardsboro and
it'd be good if we could do it digitally.
do another 5 over there?
You could just hand out a piece of paper with the link on it.
You give it to
But
them.
not everybody, again, not everybody jumps on their phone and do that kind of stuff. And to be really honest, I will not do an online survey because it's a pain in the neck, no matter how quick they say it gets done. My computer never does it that fast. So, and there's a lot of people that don't.
Are you trying to do it on your flip phone?
Yeah, I tried doing it on my flip phone, and I just can't get it.
It's a problem.
It's going to work best on the flip phone.
Yeah, well, I know it does, but.
But if you get a lot of results that are identical, then you know that there's been somebody monkeying with it.
Okay. I mean, because I'd still like to see it available as a I mean, Doyle still does his poll for their town meeting by paper.
So you could hand it at the,
Well, we don't need
I
to
mean,
answer
if you want to
tonight.
control, yeah, I mean, if you, well, we kind of need to get narrowing it, yeah, if we're gonna do it for, I mean, I don't think we can finalize it, but we kind of gotta get,
You could be sneaky and print them on 2 different color papers, and then you'd know where they came from.
Yeah, but then we don't want it, we're trying not to identify, hang on one sec, we're trying to identify Wardsboro and Dover, because everything's, we want commingled, because, I like the first question, are you a Wardsboro or Dover? It's not, are you Wardsboro primary, are you Dover primary, are you Wardsboro
Right.
second, I thought that was good.
I realize in terms of budget that families with children in the school districts don't take a precedent. That being said, could we start with each family gets 1 cent home? And that would at least give you a sample of what the first front-end users, being the families with children in the schools, are thinking?
Well, I definitely think we'll make them available through the schools or send them home.
But I'm saying if one gets sent home with each family and then gets collected like all the other forms that come home with our children, then they go through the school secretary, that'll assure you that there's no doubles, triples, and it'll assure you that each family saw it and had a voice.
Yeah.
And you could mark those off that way, would be something you could easily kind of police. Just a thought.
It would just be the honor system that they didn't go do it online again, or do it at the.
Well, then you
Or a
could
town
take the
meeting.
families out of it from there, because the system
Right.
should be intelligent enough. I mean, just a thought to get a sampling of what
Right.
the families that have children are looking at.
Yeah, but then we're also trying not to separate that out.
yeah, we're gonna get 2 different groups on the online paper thing.
Yeah.
Except, yeah,
No, so that's all, I think that's all good. I mean, unless you guys want to spend some time and hammer this out so we're all done tonight, I mean, I think we should think about it, and one of the things we kind of agreed to is we wouldn't make any decisions on anything after only being, hearing it in one town, that we want to make sure we also discussed it in both towns. So, I mean, we could plan on making a decision, I'll get to you in one sec. We can plan on making a decision, next meeting in Wardsboro, and that everybody's just gonna have to do their homework so that, yeah. Okay?
If it's important to make sure you're not getting duplicates from people, the way to do it would be to send out a mailing. You send out a mailing, and first of all, with SurveyMonkey, it's relatively easy to identify each individual person with a code that they would put in. But also this way, you're not handing it out to, somebody theoretically, like you said, could answer it 5 times at each meeting.
But again, you're still, I know you're talking about the parents or the end user for the children, but, there's a lot of seniors that pay taxes that are kind of, that may not, I don't want to exclude anybody. That was the only
I
reason.
mentioned each resident.
Yeah, that's
Not-
why
not-
I was trying to just say, if it's available at town meeting, I mean, I've always seen the Doyle survey, a lot of people will pick that up and actually answer it at town meeting. And that's why I'm just thinking, if it's available at town meeting, I mean, if it gets sent home, I know we get complaints a lot, I'll get to you in one sec, from parents saying, well, I didn't get that, or, I don't get that, or, my kid didn't bring it home, and I want to, the more input we get, the better results we're gonna get. No, I know, so that's why I think it's good going home through the parents, it's good having it available at town meeting, it's good having it on the SurveyMonkey, it's good having it on all our websites, it's, good on the TV.
Don't we just say, honor system? If
Yeah,
you're answering in
I'm
one
good with
capacity, in one form, just do it that way, and then put it out there in all different ways, going home in the school, SurveyMonkey, handing it out, mailing, all, because isn't the idea behind this is we want to get as much input from all the different constituents who might not be here. And if we have more than enough, that's actually a good thing, right?
Right.
We're concerned that we have less. If we had a lot more and had duplicate, I'm not as concerned about that.
Well, I am if you have duplicate, because then if you had somebody fill out 100 of them and then 10 others were filled out, you're gonna say, oh wow, the vast majority of the people 10 times wants this. And
But this is just a survey to get a sense of what's happening, where we're still, advertising, we still have this on TV of people checking to make sure what we're doing. So if this isn't really following what the
Yeah.
constituents want, they can come down here and tell us this is not what we talked about in the survey or how we answered.
Did you have another?
I was just gonna say, I wondered electronically, if you're worried about a certain percentage of the population really not knowing what to do with the computer, what about seeing if like that 6th grade class could spend some time at the library just being at those computers offering, hey, we'll come and set you up. You can take the survey, but we'll set you up. We'll do this, make sure it's gotten all through. An idea.
Yeah, I think I'm making them out out of the mall. So are you guys all good? You're okay?
Yeah, I
We'll just-
think we're fine.
We'll just
I mean,
print
you
'em
don't
out.
get that many people that are gonna, it's not a large majority of the population that's gonna actually fill it out. I mean, on most surveys, you're only looking, I don't know, SurveyMonkey better. I mean, it's just.
You can get, through SurveyMonkey, you can get anywhere from, 60 to 100%, depending on who your audience is.
100%, okay.
But on a piece of paper handed out at town hall, and look, if you get 10%, I'd be surprised.
Mhm.
I mean, at town meeting.
Yeah, see, I think, and again, just the Doyle poll, it seems as though we get, a lot of them get filled out.
But those are such fun questions, that's the
Well,
other.
these are kind of fun questions.
It's a fun question, and they're like a Rich Warner, top question.
Yeah. So let's just, everybody think about it. Thank you for your input, thank you for your help, Mark, or for your offer of help. And then let's make a decision at the next meeting.
Sure, absolutely.
What are we deciding at the next meeting? So is Carrie
What we're
going to
gonna do.
continue? So we're going to spend more time
Yeah,
working
we
on
will
it at the
discuss
next
it at the
meeting?
next meeting. So if
Okay.
everybody thinks about it, if anybody has suggestions, can't be at the meeting, and then let's put it to bed at the next, let's put a final survey
And I'll
together.
fine tune, put in
Yep.
Christine's suggestions about rating.
Right,
Ranking.
ranking.
Take a look
there.
at the question number 3 answers and adding transportation.
And one of the things, Laura suggested was the two big policy questions that we don't have out there yet.
Yeah, transportation.
Transportation and building.
Right.
One more
attendance.
thought, if you wanted to put it on paper in the March Bucketville, the deadline is like February 8th-ish. So that could be an insert in the Bucketville as well. And that goes to primarily second homeowners. So at least Wardsboro-wise, you'd reach a lot of second homeowners.
Well, we meet on the 5th, right?
Right,
Yeah.
Or the 4th? What,
the 5th and 6th.
5th, okay. The 6th is this meeting just specifically for the...
Correct,
Okay. So we'll just, at the 5th, we'll make a decision.
okay.
Okay? Cool. So the other thing, Rick, maybe if you send that out by email to everybody, Rick, if you have it in your computer, then we can make changes there, and then maybe we can get it printed right there at the meeting that night in Wardsboro and start getting it out to people. Okay. You guys all good with that? Anybody else wanna? Good job, Carrie.
Yeah, I'll just conclude.
Pardon?
I think it's a very important survey, and, I think some of the comments in the newspaper of late, there just has not been a lot of community involvement, kind of leaving you guys out in the dark. At school sing and at after school, before school pickup, just so you guys understand, the parents, I'm sure it's the same way in Worldsboro, this is all we're talking about. So to have this avenue, because, people are confused, how do you really have a voice? We can go to the meeting, but that's not necessarily the forum to speak up. People get a little confused, a little intimidated. So I just think that this is excellent. And there might be some hard answers that are going to make your job even tougher. But, a lot of people voted on this kind of as a leap of faith. And now you'll be able to kind of see, all right, now that we're here, what are we thinking? I think this is great.
Those hard questions are not going to get easier to answer if
No.
the longer they're held out there.
Yeah. And I think 3 is important to keep in there.
Yeah.
See, now I'll totally disagree, because I think it's gonna be very easy questions, because the voters are gonna tell us. I mean, the public is gonna tell us whether or not we're doing the right thing. And again, I know that the board is, some people are very concerned about attendance, and I'm not, because, a long time ago, we learned that, sometimes if people aren't here, it's because they're happy with what's going on, that they're trusting us and things are going good. It's when 150 people show up at a board meeting that you gotta be nervous, because you definitely know you've done something wrong. So,
Excuse me, one more thought.
Yeah.
Carrie, did you want to, under question number 5, also put on the board's blog site, on the board's website or something like that? By going to the board's website, whatever.
well, and again, maybe that's a good one to rank too, just to kind of see.
Whatever.
Well, I'm just thinking, because if you allow them to
What do we
rank
look?
them, right, and then we may find out that, nobody's looking at social media, but everybody's looking at
The newspaper.
BCTV, so maybe, then we just credit that to our fantastic
Then you know.
cameraman. Or if everybody loves our website, then, Anita can sell her services to other people.
Okay.
So we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you.
Any questions on, so we're good for the school district meeting. If nobody has any more questions on that, we'll move to our regular directors meeting, which we got to call to order again. Additions or changes to the agenda? Did anybody have any changes or additions to the agenda? Members of the public? This is for the regular meeting. Any comments from the public? And, there's some boards that will not allow you to speak to other things. The only time you get to talk is under members of the public, but we don't do that, so. Review and approval of the minutes of the 12/18 and the January 2nd meeting. So last meeting, we hadn't gotten the minutes, and this meeting, I know they were out, because I actually read them again. Does anybody have a problem with approving them? If not, if somebody can make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Dwight moves, do we have a second?
Second.
Carrie seconds it. Is there any discussion of the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Cool, motion carries. Superintendent's report. The superintendent did a January cabinet report. Did everybody see that? So you did?
Yes.
Matthew?
Okay.
It was a question, not a statement.
A communications report.
Hi, so everything's updated. You all saw the long press release that went out. It got picked up, not in its entirety, but in important bits and pieces. The Bucketville News has edited down to its barest bones, I'm afraid, but they did get everything in their calendar listings. The blog site is updated. There's been no questions through the email on the little ask a question button. And the one thing I would need to know from you all is what special thing do you need me to do between now and the annual meeting on February 13th, other than the usual, create posters, keep the blog updated. I'll send out another mini press release specifically for that meeting to remind people that that's the big one. But anything you think you need me to do to for the lead up to that, let me know. I can't think of anything other than the usual.
So any advice that you might want to have on this survey may be helpful just in terms of the communication value of it afterward. Do you have a lot of experience with surveys?
I did at one time, and when I worked for a nonprofit in Rhode Island, and we just, it's going to sound so retro, but we just ended up sticking people out into the public with clipboards. And we used high school students, and it just was, in the end, our best method ever.
Well, I mean, you know, like getting people to take it is one thing, but really, I'm talking about the formulation of the questions, really. Just
Right, it
making
is
sure
a
that we're
science,
asking.
you know.
And, you know, I think, Mark, you're saying that too.
It is a
so-
science.
Yeah,
and-
I mean, I don't know the psychology behind it, but I have enough experience, probably dealt with 10,000 or so questions that I think I could probably. I mean, the shorter the question, the better. The shorter the answers, the better. People don't like to read.
Especially if it's on their little phone or their computer.
Yeah, and you know, you can't really ask the questions you want to ask, like, why the heck don't you come to our meetings? Or, you know, you have to ask the, like these are, the policy questions, so. But I certainly can put out a little mini press release that there is going to be a survey if you think that'll generate some interest. At least a public service announcement to that effect.
We could ask people what questions they think we should ask. That would be crazy. That could be crazy.
Yeah, I think you're open. I mean, I think we gotta give it some guidance,
Yeah.
but it's up to you guys.
I could leave a general question of, is there something that you think that we should be doing
Everybody's
that's
just
not
gonna write, are
identified?
you gonna close my school? I still hear it. And I just say no.
Closed-end questions are your best, you can get the best
Yeah.
results from closed-end questions, not open-end ones.
This pretty much sums it up right here.
I mean,
It's
is there,
it's pretty good, yeah.
the only thing that, if you're going back to that, would there be one question, like any comments, give them a place just to comment if somebody wants to write something up? If you want to say, hey, you know, as parents, I don't feel like we're being communicated with enough, and, you know, but I don't have an answer for you. So maybe that would be the only thing, give them like a little, I don't know, on SurveyMonkey, I think there's a spot you can like just, but it limits you to so many characters.
Yeah, I
Or
don't
do you
know.
set it up?
I don't know how many characters.
Okay.
I think you can have either a line or you can have a paragraph format, and the paragraphs, you know, probably have, you know, 500 characters or something.
Yeah, I always find it's interesting to include one aspirational
That's
question.
exactly what I was just thinking. Is maybe aspirational.
You know, like an
instead.
open-ended question that
Creative.
says, you know, my dream school for
Yes.
the children in our communities is,
Yeah.
and see what that answer is. At least one aspirational question, I think, is always interesting.
That could be the last one. I could help with the vision statement, quite frankly, of what could be related to the vision statement. What do you see as the vision for? you know,
Well,
Yeah, unfortunately, the vision's got to be done before
Yeah.
this is going to be completed.
don't think so. If you're doing the survey, the vision, isn't that like, work that we're doing through
I'm hoping the
March?
vision, into March, but, we need to have it a lot further along.
Yeah, I kind of agree that we need to be at the next level down on this, like, a little more tactical, like, what are you most looking forward to being accomplished in the first year?
Well, anyway, on communications, if you can think of some other things or tasks you need me to do, but everything is up to date, front porch is all up to date. I don't know if you guys read that, but everything is up to date.
So just, I'll get to you in one second. I think you're doing a great job, and I appreciate it, and I think it's
Thank you.
working really well. I don't think you need to change anything.
All right, well, as you know, after these meetings, I go home and log in and start changing stuff for the next meeting, so it's never, hopefully, more than 12 to 24 hours out of sync with where things are at calendar-wise. So,
One suggestion I'd make is for the board to approve purchasing a domain name, which can be redirected to the blog.
right,
I go to that blog, once or twice a week, and I can't remember the name of it.
right. Well, they don't have any money.
Well, we do actually have money that we
You have
can
money?
spend.
You can do it for $10.
But
$10.18.
I don't think
Redirected.
And who?
as
Go
a
ahead.
Be
Go
careful
ahead.
on that.
.org, we don't have to.
You can do edu.edu.
Right, and I didn't think we had to pay for those.
Yeah, any domain name you have to
Well,
register.
that's something I would be concerned, I think that's something we ought to go through central office,
Right.
because there is,
Kevin should do that.
well, we should talk to them first. So, hey, Matt, could you do me a favor? Well, you know Matt,
Yeah.
the domain names and stuff, because you used to do that at central office, do we want to purchase something, or aren't there some available to us because we're a school?
Nothing free, like
Okay.
Mark said. $10 a year, usually through GoDaddy is what we've been using. EDU is reserved typically for higher ed, Anita.
That is, yeah.
So that wouldn't be available. It would be net or org or one of those.
Right, but is there a rule you have to go through Wyndham Central or anything?
I'm not aware of a rule, but we have done that in the past just to keep the accounts centrally managed through Wyndham Central.
Right,
But for example, Dover manages its own, Marlborough manages its own. I believe the other schools are managed through Wyndham Central,
Right.
the domain names.
Yeah, so I think before we do anything, we should just, definitely, because the River Valleys, remember, is a name, is not, it's not something we just made up, it's not a trade name. It's registered with the Secretary of State, we need to, I just want to make sure we do things right on that.
all right, so I can check with Kevin.
You could
Okay.
just use the initials. I wouldn't use,
Right.
you want it to be short.
Well, that's why on the posters, I just put RVUSD,
Yeah, which is.
because I'm too lazy to write the whole thing.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
yesterday, I went through the documents, the minutes and the agendas for this board, and found a lot of variation in the name, so I went back to the organizational meeting and the articles, and then I wrote to Bill, and Bill gave me the correct names of both of them.
Okay,
So this one is the River Valleys Unified School District,
right.
and so it shall remain.
But we've called it for short River Valleys. the River
Sure, I
Valley
could call it, but
Schools.
the documents were saying unified or union or not putting that in at all, and
Yeah, it's not
They're all
union, it's
different.
unified, I think.
it is.
Okay, we good with, are we good with communications? Thank you, Anita.
No, thank you.
Old business, building assessments, engineering study update, Dwight.
That's me. Well, it's moving along. I spoke to one of the engineering firms, and they're going to have a number for me for the cost for each building. They're going to break out the cost per building. But then they started asking me a whole series of questions, and then I realized how little I know about the buildings themselves. So in terms of square footage, number of acreage, all these questions. I just had no clue what kind of heating system, what kind of town water. So what I need to do is reach out to each school. So what I wanted to ask was who is the best person I should be reaching out to at each school? Can I just reach out to the?
Why don't you plan on, come over for us and we'll meet, Matt and I will meet with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay, Matt?
Or can I just send an email, like an email a question?
No, you can buy us lunch and they'll give you all the answers.
Jeez. All right, I'll do it that way.
I got
And
no
then
lunch
so
money.
basically, for the next two that I'm going to be getting, I need to have all this information.
I just did another one for another project and they want like budgets, how much are in your budgets, and I think we need to put that, if they're asking those questions, we don't have any yet, and that's why.
Yeah, I had no idea. I had furnace, boilers, so anyway, so I just I'll put together a list of questions and meet, and then we'll
Yeah,
have
you
that
can
all
just
out.
email, so she
One-
wants to buy us lunch.
Right, I appreciate that. So but one of them said they still, after I couldn't answer any questions, she said she would look it all up, and which I thought was nice, but for the other two, it would be better to have that information going in. So, but other than that, I fully expect to have, within a month, to have bids done.
Okay.
Just a thought, the insurance agent for each school to insure these buildings would have all of that on file. So it might just be a quick call to the agent for each school, and they could produce that for you.
Actually, Wyndham Central has all that, because we go
Yeah.
Wyndham Central for everybody.
I don't know if they have all of that.
They-
Most of it,
To
but-
insure it, they would have to have the type of heat, the square footage, the type
Yeah.
of building. Yeah.
Great.
Well, actually, you know what, the listers have it too, because although we don't pay taxes on the buildings, the
Yeah,
state
I know.
requires the listers to have a lister card on every building.
Mhm.
So a lot of that will give you your square footage, and they'll give you the outline of the building too. And Dover's are available online, so if you send me an email, I'll send you the card tomorrow,
Okay.
because I'll forget
Matt
tonight.
hasn't seen it.
Pardon?
Matt.
Oh, go ahead, Matt, I'm sorry.
Hey, just if it's helpful, we had the energy audit done last fall, you may recall. I have that report, which
A lot of information together as
a
well.
lot of that information will probably be on there as well.
Okay. We did one in Wardsboro too.
Yeah.
Stuff.
I'll censor, anything else?
That's all I got.
Anybody else on the building assessment? Carrie, we're not going to talk about public engagement tonight. We already covered you.
Skipped it.
Do you need anything else?
No, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to incorporate the comments and maybe add the three questions, which still keeps us under 10. Question about transportation, the priorities of what transportation would be for each building and also in between the buildings. What criteria do you determine where students will attend the school? In other words, is it going to be based on where you live? Is it going to be based on where siblings, proximity to parents' workplace?
Well, we're required to base it on the town you live in, and we're required to consider siblings.
Right.
That's in the articles, so we have no choice not to do that.
So other criteria
It's not- we've
to
got enough.
consider.
It's other, right,
So,
That's what we have enough.
or,
There's
you
two
know,
pages.
choice.
We got 'em.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then I'll try to do a more aspirational question, but maybe tie it into something about what the what should be the highest priority for the board for the first year, what the board would like to see.
Something, but I think not allowing people to,
Everything?
yeah, not giving them everything.
Any of those
Yeah.
inputs?
No,
well,
yeah.
and we've kind of said, we know, there's certain priorities we have to get done in the next year, that even if they say that's not a high priority to us, it has to be done. We have to come up with a structure, and we have to do it pretty quick, because we have to come up with a budget. We can't come up with a budget unless we have a structure.
Ask
So-
people, what do you hope will be the, most positive story after the first year of operation? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really difficult. It's such a hard thing.
I'll try to come up with that would be 7 questions. I'll try to come up with an 8th question of something more general
Nancy
for
crisscross.
public comment.
That's for me.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it?
Yeah, or maybe what they would consider, instead of the highest priority, what they would consider to be a successful first year for the board.
Yeah, that may be good. Any other comments on public engagement and Carrie's survey?
One other?
Yep.
Just, I know we were talking about trying to do some more, I guess, not meet and greet, but opportunities for the two towns and the schools to be able to work together, to see each other, to participate in activities together. I know way back when we were talking about some type of a community event to bring the two communities together instead of just general meetings like this. It's something more of an ability to, you know, mingle. So, and that's something to consider of, you know, and maybe that's part of the survey if that's something that's important. But I mean, we
Well,
have
we
two
put-
buildings with two different schools right now, and we're working towards becoming one school district. The ability to try to do things together, meeting the students would be great. So I don't know what that would look like. One example of this was really in the beginning of the school year with Governor Scott coming
Yeah.
and Wardsboro and Dover students doing the presentation. That was an opportunity for the students really, and it was limited to the classes, but students and the parents of those students to really spend a little time together and to see what the other classes are doing,
Yeah.
which I think was really great. Is that something that's important to us? It doesn't have to be a lot, it could be,
She's done.
It is important.
You all set?
Can I
yes.
just make a comment in that one of the questions on the surveys was about whether you see these two schools running as separate entities or as one, right? And I think that that's an important question to have answered before you go into a lot of meet and greet. Because quite frankly, I mean, I voted for this with the understanding that both schools were actually going to remain separate identities. And the idea that, you know, what Wardsboro was going to do because they have great programs going on was, you know, and they wanted to keep going with this, that we had, that Dover had IB programs going on, and that's where we wanted to focus. And to me, I don't know as though it's important to really bring, whether it's parents or even a ton of students together unless you know what that objective is first. I'm just, you know, I mean, I get it that we're all one district, but I remember growing up in schools that, I mean, there was one district and we had 3 elementary schools. I never knew a kid in any single one of the elementary schools until I went to junior high. So I think it depends on what you are expecting, I think, that answer to that question to be, before you just put a lot of energy into that other piece. I mean, that would be my...
So, you know, I pushed back on that question, and here's why. I'm thinking about the next budget. And I'm thinking about how much money do we invest in IB on an annual basis?
30,000.
30,000?
A little less than that, that's a good estimate.
Yeah. So we're doing one budget
Jeez.
for 2 schools. And so I think we have to just think about that, you know, I mean, that, like.
How that looks to people.
Well,
Yeah,
right,
just
so,
to-
and then
I
we're
get
coming
that.
together to vote on that budget.
Mhm.
And so, you know, that $30,000 price tag there, you know, how does what does Wardsboro say about that? Which is not to say that we can't do that, I think we have to think about that, though, you know, I mean, there's a practical issue of we're gonna be in front of the voters with a budget, and voters are gonna say, wait a minute.
I was thinking more of the kids than I was necessarily parents.
And just
Yeah.
remember too, though, at town meeting last year, because we did not make a recommendation on how to vote, because we said, you know, specifically, I got, you know, a couple people not very happy with me saying, we need you to tell us what to do, and I wouldn't do that. Because I also said that, you know, I can't make any guarantees on anything. That, you know, the only guarantees are in those articles, and the articles don't say that IB is gonna be the curriculum choice for this new district. So there was never a guarantee, we could not guarantee that there would be IB as a Dover board member, and I can't tell you that there'll be IB as a River Valley Unified School Director, because we haven't gotten that far yet. So, I mean, that's why I think, maybe a question about, is IB important would be a good question, but, there are no guarantees. So, and unfortunately, the state also is, the state didn't want to just see, the Act 46 was not that everything stays the same, we're just cutting school board members, because that, that doesn't work. Yeah, so the inequity is, the most glaring thing Dwight kept bringing up during the meetings, and was there's no foreign language in wards where there is in Dover. So if we just hire and throw a foreign language person over there, that takes care of that inequity, but is that the best way to educate? So those are the questions we're gonna have. So I hope that you do come to more meetings and bring that up, because that's important. Because the other thing too is remember, and kind of back to what you were saying earlier, I've gone to a lot of town meetings, and the parents don't always carry the vote at town meetings. Sometimes they don't carry the vote. So you can't just say because the parents want it, it's a good thing. I mean, and that's the problem that we've had as a board. If, our motto's been an educationally sound budget, at least, the Dover motto has been an educationally sound budget, taxpayer-friendly budget. And, I'm sure that as River Valley's, Rick's been on a school board for almost as long as I have. And we've done a lot of stuff together, and I think it's very similar in Wardsboro.
Oh, it is. I mean, that's always been something that we put out there on town meeting, that we're going to provide the best education possible for the most taxpayer-friendly way we can, and we have to keep it within reason. So I think we've done a good job over the years in that town doing the same thing.
I mean, I'm really excited about working with Wardsboro, because I think there's a lot of similarities. I think in the minutia there isn't, and I think actually the foreign language is not as big a thing to me as it is, because I think our students are still doing very well in both schools. But moving forward, if we've killed the engagement thing is enough, we're definitely gonna have more discussion about that, so.
I just think, just to piggyback quickly, like as you're saying with the voters, I'm taking a leap of faith here, because possibly this is my own opinion, but from what I understand in conversations and being at town meeting last year, and being at several of the board meetings prior to voting on Act 46, you did not make a recommendation. That being said, there was a lot of verbiage coming from your seats about a leap of faith. And a leap of faith that you're going to be able to keep this and you're going to be able to keep that. I just think that's the general consensus. So if a lot of people who did vote for it, I did not, okay? They have that feeling, and I think now would be a good time if they're going to be smacked in the face with, look, now we're talking about hard numbers, we're not talking about what we were talking about last year, and there's a very good chance you're going to lose your IB program. Now we have to figure out the inequity of foreign language
I'm
in
going
each
to stop
school.
right there, because I'm not saying that there's a good chance you're going to lose your IB
And
program.
neither am I.
No, I know, but politically speaking, now it's a number
No,
and budget.
and you're putting words in my mouth, and that bothers me a little
No,
bit.
it's not.
No, because I
am absolutely not.
I
went to
did-
meetings, I listened.
yeah, but we were very neutral on that, and we did not tell anybody, and we did say it was a leap of faith, but we did not tell you which way to vote. And that was important to us, okay? The time we told you that it was after the vote that happened, when we went to had to do the revote in July, we said, look, we did hear from the voters, and it was pretty overwhelming in Dover that the voters wanted to see it. And that's, so during that town meeting thing and all those meetings before that, we were very specific about being very neutral, even though that was.
And I preempted my statement with saying that it was my opinion.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And the opinions of those that I was speaking with,
Okay.
that although there wasn't a formal recommendation made, there was certainly guidance given.
So,
I think there was some guidance given because this is not something that we recommended. This was put upon us by the state. So, we may have been recommending, or some of us may have been recommending in a sense, because this is the best thing we can do. So maybe that's what you were hearing as well, because this is something that had to be done.
No question.
But, and I do appreciate your comments, and I'm not trying to shut you down.
No, that's
So,
okay.
I wanna, when we have this kind of change, it is very stressful, because it's
Absolutely.
unknown how it's gonna go through. So, I wanna reiterate with my comments, I'm thinking about the practicality of how we're gonna reconcile. So there are some, I don't know how that's gonna be. We've fought and represented that we Dover has fought and represented that Dover wanted the IB program, you know? So I think that's probably going to be a very serious conversation that we're all going to have, including parents, and, you know, but we have to have it, you know? If Wardsboro has an amazing music program that they're paying $30,000 a year for, and Dover is not, Dover may say, hey, guys, let's check and let's see if this works, you know, budget-wise. I'm just saying, I think we need to think about the practicality, and back to your original question of, have people come? You know, these are important questions. This is tough, you know, and so it's better to start talking about these things and address people's concerns as they're evolving, as opposed to letting them kind of percolate out there, you know, and make sure that we're in touch and we're all communicating about it.
Absolutely.
So I hope that's clear. It's not, you know, I'm not saying I think we're gonna have to cut budgets. I'm saying we're gonna have to reconcile programs. I mean, there are some differences and priorities, and we have to just think about those. We have to acknowledge them, put them up on a wall and say, you know, how are the joint voters going to think about that?
I mean, if you look at the numbers, though, of the second revote, I mean, what was it, 40 people that voted? That being said, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world to really take the opinions of the parents. You know, if we have 90 parents, 90 families, is that a lot? How many families think we have between the two districts?
More than that.
Okay, well, terrific then. Where if we could guarantee to get ourselves 110 opinions when we had 40 people come and vote, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, I don't think that, some good hard numbers, we could definitely get, and there are people who are so vested in this.
I want to assure you that it has been our deepest desire to bring as many people along with us to engage in this, to help shape the opinions. Since the beginning, we have fought to have these meetings. We're paying to have them videotaped. We're paying to have outreach. And so the more people that we're reaching, this is exactly what we want to do, is reach people. So if we can put 110 people in this room, that would be spectacular. It may be challenging to get through, but we want people to know what's going on. We want people to participate. That is the purpose of, we've never done that. Dover has never done that before, videotaped, you know, paid to have someone do PR. We believe it's so important. So bring them in.
Appreciate it.
Well, and it's also in the Articles of Agreement.
Yeah, bring them in.
So anyway, back to this mission statement page thing that I handed out. So this is vision and guiding principles for the River Valley Unified School District. So our mission statement we worked on over the summer before we were officials. So we came up with our mission is to educate our students to become inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring global citizens through challenging academic programs. We will provide a safe and supportive environment that will connect our students, their families, and the community while respecting and celebrating each town's local identity. The vision statement is our next item we have to work on. There was a vision from the study committee. We've discussed this a few times. I think Dwight and I both, and Laura, kind of agreed that this was heavy from Marlboro's side. With respect to each town's local identity, we envision a unified school district where we represent how, in parentheses, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. By sharing resources and talents, we believe this alliance can provide students and teachers access to increased educational opportunities and improved services. A comment, Jen, and I can't remember Jen's last name.
Did you say?
Yes. She's director of curriculum for Wyndham Central, sent over a thing, said if you don't know where you're going, any plan will do, and I don't know who Peter Drucker is, maybe.
Famous business consultant.
Okay. So I put a comment below it, if you don't know where you're going, how are you gonna know if you got there? That to me makes more sense. Does the vision match the mission? The vision is what we're getting for our kids, i.e. a world-class school that provides outstanding educational opportunities to our students or children. And that is as basic as a vision statement can be, or we can do like a very wordy one that's above it. Once we determine our vision, then we need the goals, and you know, what goals do we want to achieve toward that vision? And I just threw a few out. One of the things is in the DMG report. I passed them out already. Do we want a high-quality core instruction? If so, can the administrators and director of curriculum help define what high-quality core instruction is? Do we want all students reading at grade level by the end of third grade, by the end of second grade? Sometimes you move it too early, and they are, but then you lose them later on. Do we want to offer equitable opportunities to all of our students? I think that's a pretty easy one. Do we want to create a school system that achieves these goals and visions at a cost that taxpayers value, or you could do taxpayers can afford? Do we agree as a board to set vision and goals and direct our administrators to develop plans, strategies, and budgets to achieve these goals? And do we want well-rounded educational offerings, including arts, technology, foreign language, and global awareness? And then along with your vision and your goals, then you need some guardrail statements. And so in pursuit of our vision goals, these are things that are unchallengeable. So these are the guardrails. We can't go over the guardrail, because if we go over the guardrail, we all know what happens. These are the rules in which a new system can be designed. The less rules, the more options are available, but there may be some things that we feel are very important. I just threw some out. No school building will be closed by administrative decree, and that's in our articles. So that's when the administrator's given the vision and the goals, that's one of the guardrails. You can't come back to us with a plan that closes a school building. And again, back to your question earlier, your comment, where does IB fit in? Is that something that we want to set as a guardrail as a group? Is IB required, or does IB not going to be required, or do we become silent on the issues? And I think Carrie, as an attorney, will tell you a lot of times, they say, well, the law is silent on that to give the administration the ability to look at that and come out with it. So is it something we want to comment on or not? No minimums and no maximums. And it's kind of a broad statement, but where are we looking to go, as a group? And, another comment was seventh grade prepared for any secondary placement as opposed to a specific school. If you were in the Leland and Gray district, obviously by the time you got done with your elementary career, you would hopefully be aligned perfectly to move into the seventh grade at Leland and Gray. In Dover, Mooresboro have both had school choice forever. Ours was a little more difficult job because we had students going to numerous different schools. So we had to make sure our curriculum was structured to allow the students to move into that. So is that a guardrail that we want to place? And then there's just some, I just had one note for our goals and guardrail statements. All children having equitable opportunity is different than all programs are offered in both buildings. And I think we discussed this a little bit in Wardsboro. If you say that, are you going to offer foreign language, or are you going to offer foreign language in both buildings? And those I think are some of those guardrails we got to be a little careful of. And we could say that we want all children to be exposed to foreign language. Again, the other comment that somebody threw out was, you could say you want all children exposed to Spanish, but then that ties the hands of the administration putting the program together, because maybe they want to do Chinese. And I know we did Chinese. Leland Gray has worked a lot with Chinese as their foreign language. So those are just some considerations as we move forward and discuss our vision, and then our goals, and then our guardrail statements. So is that pretty clear for everybody? There's 3 things we want to do. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Just out of curiosity, I know what schools Dover tends to send their kids to. For Wardsboro, what schools do?
The majority of the kids do go to Leland and Gray.
Okay.
You only provide
It's
transportation.
the only
on
list
Leland
that
Gray.
they can provide.
And Dover historically switches around.
Okay.
So,
When I first started on the board, if every student that went to 7th grade or went to Leland and Gray High School had to ride the bus, the 66-passenger bus wouldn't have carried them. And nobody went to the other schools. And then, for a while before that, if you lived in West Dover, you went to Wilmington, and if you lived in East Dover, you went to Brattleboro. And then, after that, Burton got a lot of our students. And then, now it seems Brattleboro's getting a lot of the students back. So it really tends to move with a different kind of, and I don't mean it as a negative, but the cliques. and there's certain groups of people. And one of the things is, remember Brattleboro's addition's only been there for 10 years, 8? I don't remember when but before their addition, Brattleboro was not a very popular school. We were down to like 1 student going there. So it definitely varies and it changes, and it changes by the people that are moving into town, the people that have kids, and where those kids are going. You guys also, though, you have a percentage that go to.
There are a
different-
few that actually go to Wilmington,
Right.
and there are a few that go to Humber. So we just don't provide transportation there. So.
But that's something that, that's one of those things that is going to be discussed with this new district, where we're going to provide transportation to. So.
Adding it to the comments.
Pardon?
I'm adding it to the survey of different considerations.
So let's start off with vision. So, again, we need to start working on a vision. So what I thought we could do is I threw out, what we did for the study committee, and a basic vision, one that I found from some IB school. I don't know where it is, but it was in one of my notes in my computer. And the vision was a world-class school that provides outstanding educational opportunity to our students. And I put children because one of them said children, one said students. So I think, we're all in between there, all over the place. So why doesn't anybody who has any thoughts on a vision or what would be important to see in the vision, speak now? You get chances again, because we'll do this in Wardsboro again at the next meeting. Go ahead, Dwight.
I'll talk. I thought the meeting in Wardsboro, last meeting was great. We had a really good discussion about this and kind of bounced some ideas. And it actually even changed my mind a little bit, because I felt as though the schools should kind of really keep their individuality as well. But I was kind of convinced a little bit to move away from that at the last meeting. So I took the perspective of a lot of parents are feeling as though, okay, this is a great opportunity. Now I can pick which school I want to go to. And I think that the school should keeps it in its center of the community in each town, but should be kind of, there shouldn't be any difference. If you go to Wardsboro, you'll have the same opportunities as if you go to Dover. So if you live in Wardsboro, there's really no reason to go to the other school, because you're afforded the opportunities that are at both schools. Now that doesn't mean, like what Rich is saying, doesn't mean that everything is offered at both schools, but there should be a way that if you're sending your kid to this school, that you'll be given those opportunities. So that's kind of the way I was approaching it, and I think that can be done in a way. Someone mentioned it's a lot easier to move teachers than it is to move students. Rather than busing kids from one school to the other, find ways to have all those opportunities at both schools, so the parents feel comfortable sending their children to the school in their community. So that's something that kind of a vision that I had of ensuring that all those opportunities are available in each town.
Any comments, thoughts?
That's,
We'll let Anita go first.
I think sometimes when listening to all the Act 46 committee work and then these meetings so far, sometimes I think that the word provide an education is really big. And when I think about education, I think more about the environment, creating an environment for learning. And that way I'm thinking about the things that are around us, the walls, the books, the furniture, the classrooms, the setting, the environment. And so, I don't know, I think a lot about environments in general. That's just my personal direction, but somehow or other, I think I'd like you all to talk a little bit more about environment rather than curriculums and Spanish. I don't know if that fits in or if that even makes sense.
Just comment for 1 second. So when we're talking environment, are there any comments about Anita's thoughts? Because if nobody else does, I have a couple. So environment to me can mean the building and the what color the carpet and the walls are, and it also can mean the feel of the building too. So are we talking physical environment? Are we talking emotional? Are we and I don't know what other types there are, but
Well, a culture and climate for learning maybe is a better way to say it, than environment. I don't know. It's not a whole thought, it's just a feeling that you talk a lot about a world-class, to me, if I was a writer submitting the words world-class education to an editor, they'd cross it out. They'd like, be more specific, that's cliche, or you can't say that anymore, that's old, it's over. You have to say something more specific, say what you mean. So that's why I say, that the goal or the vision is, creating environments, if you will, or climates and cultures for learning. I guess I have a problem with the word education sometimes. Mainly on the account I didn't actually learn anything in school.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts or comments on that one? Is that kind of carrying that forward, or are we good with that? Okay. Your comment.
So when I hear what Dwight said, and when I think about the other conversation we were having earlier, I think maybe we want to create more of a culture of, or a sense of abundance as opposed to we're going to lose things, more like we're going to gain things. Like our kid in both schools, rather than we're going to take things away from kids, we're going to give kids additional things. I think that should be a goal. That we're going to increase opportunities for kids.
That was my no minimums or no maximums, so like, we're not gonna add 10 things, or we're not gonna, so that we don't want them.
I feel like we're writing a
Okay.
prenup.
So comments on Laura's, yeah,
I was just gonna say, what about something that that it goes with that, like the unified school district envisions sharing resources and talents to provide outstanding educational opportunities in positive environments for our children. I kind of
okay,
took,
so read that one more time, please.
the unified school district envisions sharing resources and talents to provide outstanding educational opportunities in positive environments for our children.
Okay. So comment on that statement.
I'd like to see a value proposition for the taxpayer added, but otherwise I love it.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Just a question. Mission statement versus vision. We seem to be, yeah, exactly. We seem to be going on the path of essentially making a second mission statement.
Yeah, vision statement, my understanding is a vision statement is supposed to be a little bit more focused than a mission statement. And some places don't do two, they just do, but we, for some reason, the VSBA says you should have a mission statement than a vision statement. And they should get more general as they move down the line towards your goals and then towards your,
Specific.
more specific, I'm sorry.
Just to look back what we got from Bill about vision statements, it had more particular areas, more focus on the general areas.
Yeah. Well, that will be, so once we kind of get a broad vision, then the goals are the specifics.
Right.
The goals of the vision. My goal of the vision is to be able to see when I'm driving down the road.
Yeah.
So. I think her vision statement is more general than our mission, is more specific than our mission statement, so I think it fits. I think it's a good one to start working with, or a good one to add into and accept comments or move forward with.
I like that. I was just asking what
Yeah.
you were trying to get out of mission versus
Well,
vision.
yeah,
Because
well, we've got our mission, now we, like I said, then we gotta get the vision, and then we gotta do the goals, and then we gotta do the guardrails.
You mean, like, what's the purpose of the vision statement versus
how
compared
much
to the
more
mission
specific do you
statement?
want it to be? mean,
Oh, I don't think it has to be any more specific unless people want it more specific.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's kinda up to us as a group, we get to decide. The harder parts are gonna be the goal, and then the most hardest part is gonna be setting some guardrails, or setting some specifics.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I don't have a statement that she was.
We're gonna get it from her before the
Oh,
night's
good.
out,
Oh, good.
because I noticed she wrote it down.
And as
So
a
we're
member
gonna
of the
steal it
public,
from
I
her.
would only remark that a vision statement is contextual in nature, and a mission statement is much more specific, I think.
Oh, I was led to believe it was the opposite way.
Well, the mission is the thing you're setting out to do.
Right.
The vision is what the world that you see to do it in.
Okay. So we
Just my
see,
opinion.
so read your vision again.
The unified school district envisions sharing resources and talents to provide outstanding educational opportunities in positive environments for our children.
That's a how statement. It says how you're gonna do it.
I mean,
Well, it says a purpose, but it's not necessarily a method.
By sharing resources. That's a how-to.
no.
I mean, you could
Not
invert
committal.
the sentence and start with by sharing resources, yada, yada, yada.
I was trying to make it more active instead of passive.
Right.
What is wrong with the one that we have now? I know that it was developed by Marlboro, but like.
No, it
is
wasn't
basically-
developed by Marlboro.
Well.
It was developed by everybody, but
Okay.
just some of the parts is, in the whole is greater than some of the parts was, I didn't know,
Well, we can
I don't know
take-
how that fit. But I don't think it's a whole lot different than what she's reading to us,
We could just do the second sentence.
which is kind of what you're saying, by
Yeah.
sharing resources and talents. But you were a little more specific, because I
Yeah.
think you said staff.
No, I said resources and talents. I just took the top one and then I combined pieces with that last one that you had. And then I tied in environments.
Well, can you do me a favor? Can I steal that from you?
Let
So
me
I
write
can-
it legibly.
Yeah, or if you want, you can write it on this piece of paper, and then I'll type it in legibly, and then I can share it with everybody for the next meeting. So what I'll do is I'll add that to this, and I'll send that back out again. And then, we can look at it and discuss it again at the next meeting, and maybe we'll have some more people, some different people weigh in, and everybody can think about it and make some comments, and hopefully next meeting we'll have a full group. And so, any other thoughts on a vision? Any kind of thing that you'd like to see in there?
Not anything too different.
Okay. And Mark, any other thought that you'd like to see in there? Anita? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, adding something in regards to taxpayers, value may not be a bad thing. It's a good place to put it.
What we should have done was we should have brought a whiteboard out and had somebody write it so we can see it. Can we try to do that for Wardsboro? Next meeting, see if we can get a whiteboard?
The
Yeah, she's
next
got it.
meeting is
From
here.
there.
The
She's got it.
30th is here.
No, that's a general meeting.
Right.
That's specific to just reviewing
Right.
we're not gonna discuss vision,
Oh,
we're just
okay.
gonna discuss those items that are gonna be,
Right. So
that
February
annual meeting.
5th is your.
right, it'll be the next
official
meeting, we'll
meeting.
discuss the vision. Thank you, I really appreciate it. Ooh, I love that penmanship.
I just about got it in the minutes. Could I have her name?
The unified school, here, give that to Peter, put that in minutes. Okay, any other thoughts on, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, two things. One thing is, in Wardsboro on the 5th, I've done a little bit of this work, and we just project it, and then it's really easy to see it and change it.
Okay, will you be
So
able
I'll
to?
be there, and I'd be happy to help with that.
Okay, excellent. I think that'd be really good.
Okay. And the second thing is, I think what Peter's touching on is everybody, not everybody, but people think differently about mission and vision, and people get degrees in that, right?
Right.
But I did hear it once well represented as, or at least in my opinion, well represented as, the mission is what you're gonna do, and the vision is what does it look like when you're there. So I don't know if that helps or hurts your thinking or conversation, but what are you trying to do, and what does it look like when you're there? The vision, what do you see when you've achieved that?
So we could see that sharing resources and talents has provided outstanding educational opportunities in a positive environment for our children. And we'll be able to see that by things like how the students are doing when they're being assessed and how they perform, how they do when they move on to a secondary program, and the kind of things that we look at now, both towns look at now.
That's definitely something I think you need to have in there, though, is what do we want to have as, where do we want our students to be when they leave our care in 6th grade? I mean, do we want them just to be prepared to go to 7th grade, or?
I mean, we used to, I think one of the visions, we had lifelong
Learners.
learners. Can you fit lifelong learners in there?
Could I have your name for the minutes?
Vision statement, you're going to be looking at, what does the staff look like? What do the students look like? Kind of again, how is it going to look like when we are achieving our mission statement? How are the students being educated? What are the programs that are available? How is the community engaged? What are the cost savings?
Isn't that something you said the administrators would help us with, Rich? In other words, we throw out the vision and kind of the goals and have the administrators come back to us and.
Yeah, so once you get the vision, then we have the goals. So the goals may be that, foreign language, there's foreign language, that's more specific than just we're envisioning, a positive environment for our children. But, or I guess, like say the positive environment again, if you look at it as a building, so our goals is that this is accomplished in 2 buildings.
Right.
Or there's buildings in both towns that house this. So I guess that would be the goal. And then the guardrail to make sure that it happens is that by administrative decree, no building closes. Because we want them to do that we want to have both buildings being utilized. So because I guess like one of those things that's going to be up in the air, and this is something that the administration's going to have to look at for us to make a recommendation, is except for this little blip this year here, we were going back to single grades, or our policy had been single grades in the primary, even if they're smaller grades, because that's where a lot of the learning is done, in learning to read and the literary skills. And then we found that it was okay to have combined grades in the upper grades because the teacher wasn't spending as much time teaching as they were leading. So, I guess one of our goals may be that, learning is done in the younger grades, in individual grades. And then, maybe like a guardrail is that, there'll be no combined grades in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. And then the administration has to present us a model that meets those requirements. Does that make sense? Does that make sense out there?
It does. Is it, I don't know the makeup of Wardsboro. Is it viable? Like, what is your class
Well,
size?
that's here. We don't determine if it's viable because we're giving that to the administration to make it work. And then the administration needs to come back to us while they're doing their work and say, hey, look, this just isn't viable.
Understood, okay.
And here's why. If you want to change one of your guardrails, or do you want to adjust your goals?
So we
The
can aim
vision should
extremely
stay the
high,
s-
and then they can cut us down a little bit to reality.
Right, or maybe we're shooting too low and maybe they're gonna say, you know what, you don't want just individual grades in 1, 2, and 3, we want individual grades 4, 5, and 6, and here's how it's gonna look. And that's why the more leeway we give them, then the more they're allowed as our educational experts to present the program that we're looking for. Is that,
It does. I think that's important from my standpoint, is to have individual grades.
but what we want, but then there are some educators that feel that the combined grades with the older students actually help reinforce with students that are doing well by them helping students that aren't doing as well, or maybe the younger kids. And there's some educators that feel that, younger kids that are doing a little bit better, will do more because they're also in with kids older than them or upper grades. I mean, And that's the problem in education over the years. There's been all these theories and thoughts, and we've tried this and we've tried that. And Dick Kaufman used to say it's like we waste a generation on a new program to find out it doesn't work because, you know, if between kindergarten and third or fourth grade, I don't remember what it's called, SRA, there was a reading thing where they did with no alpha, with no vowels, you know, it was has a word sounded, and that was gonna be the world's greatest thing, and everybody's gonna do fantastic, and my sisters had that, my two younger sisters, and, you know, they were wound up being like a year behind because they found out that really isn't a great thing, but it was 5 years they spent on it, so then they try to retrain everybody. So it's not easy. Sure.
To kind of take one step down to goals, is the goal to have, if Dover has, you know, all 6 grades separated, is the goal to have the same at Wardsboro? Or can the administrators come back and say, you know, one building's better off this way and another building's better off that
Well,
way?
and it depends what we put for goals and guardrails. If we put goals down that, you know, we want the same in both buildings, and one of our guardrails is that there has to be individual grades, then they need to come up with a program that works in both schools, in both buildings, and I should say buildings, not schools, because that's what we've kind of tasked them to do. That's why I'm saying, if we're that specific, if we're more general and say that, you know, we want every child being able to read at grade level by the end of 2nd grade, then that's more broad. So maybe they can do it with combined grades in one building and single grades in another building, or then they come back to us. We're not so specific. And that was one of the things when Rick and I met with the superintendent, when we were talking about the calendar, we were gonna try to like maybe not have some meetings for 3 months and let the administration just work on our goals and our vision to come back with a plan, but Rick felt very strongly, and I totally agree with them, and the superintendent did, was that there needs to be constant back and forth, so that's why he can report back to us and say, hey, one of these goals you gave us, we don't know, there's no way to accomplish this unless you're willing to have individual teachers for every child. So is that still where you want to go? And then we will have to say, gosh, you know, I think we can sell that. Or no, we're not gonna sell that, so, you know, no, I guess we need to change that goal. But at least we looked at it, so if somebody was to say to us, hey, you know, didn't you look at this? We can say, yeah, we did, and we found it to be maybe more financially burdensome than we think we could sell at a meeting. Make sense?
Yeah, I throw this out there that one of your goals probably should be a maximum class size.
Well, that would be a guardrail.
Okay, one of your guardrails.
I think that's more, because that's more specific. So a goal could be class sizes, you know, in line with the current, can you help me with that, Matt? Class sizes are as determined to be optimal by the educational standards or something along, that would be a good goal, because that's a little general. It's not a specific number. Because if you go too specific, then it makes it more difficult for that to happen. Does that make sense?
6 of one, half dozen of another.
Okay. So if we were to say you can't have a class bigger than 20, what happens if there's 21 students? They can't do that. They have to then not have that class. They have to, you know, bring in another teacher.
Yeah, I meant whether you put it in the goal or
Well, a goal,
guardrail.
yeah, a goal is more like, is an outcome. A guardrail is a specific. A guardrail is this has to happen. Okay?
Yeah, to some extent, I think it's semantics. I think you have your guardrail could be class size has to stay within state standards or whatever, you know, educational standards. So I think it more matters what you want to, whether it's in the goal or guardrail, more matters what you want to give the administration to construct their curriculum out of.
Do we want to go down the path at all of, like, I know something that we try to do here is curtailing an education to each student's needs. So in other words, in class, there might be 4 children that are obviously extremely gifted, and, you know, they might not have the same opportunities, where we're trying to pull them out here and get them some extra math, breathe them up to level. So if we're gonna, you know, like really shoot for the moon, kind of providing an education for each individual. Help me with the language here, it's not my specialty, but
Matt,
Personalized learning.
Personalized
Yeah,
learning,
isn't that required by the state now, or is that just for high school?
Class size,
No, personalized,
personalized learning plans is 7 through 12 at the moment, but they are expecting
Shooting.
to make that into the elementary grades as well.
yeah. Just, you know, you have a combined class, and the children at the higher end of the range are being pulled out and being taught 3 grade levels above, and then going back in that class, and, I mean, that certainly works. Maybe we're getting too hung up on combining grades, or, because, you know, what might happen is in Wardsboro, you might, let's say that there's 2 students in first grade, which could happen, and there's 4 in second grade. Is it really better to have separate grades there? So are we kind of getting caught up on a number that might come to bite us in the other end? I don't know.
well, and that's why, again, you know, one of your goals would be that every child learns it, you know,
At their, yeah,
you know, or,
every child is challenged to their ability.
yeah, that could be a goal. It's not specific.
Mhm.
It's not saying the child has to, you know, do 1 grade better than they are by, you know, with a physical age. But, so I just noted personalized learning plans under goals, that we should look for something like that.
Matt, isn't the language that you're talking about differential learning?
I think what you're talking about is differentiated,
Thank you.
and that's really instructional practice at
Right.
this point. Really considered part of good core instruction. And it would be notable that any classroom, whether it's single grade or multi-grade, is likely, the teacher is likely teaching a range of at least 2 grades at any given time, maybe sometimes 3, just to address the variety of needs in that classroom. Most classrooms have a range of 2 to 3 grades in one way or another. So,
So that could be a goal for us, you know, what we're looking for as far as the type of teaching that's going on in the school, differentiated, right?
Instruction.
Instruction.
Well, I think that's a standard now, isn't it?
differentiated instruction is certainly a standard teaching practice today.
But it's not the standard.
Not a learning standard, is that what you're talking about?
No, is the instructional style differential. Yeah, that word,
Yeah.
instruction is now, when we first started it here, that it was not the norm, it was the,
Exception?
right, now it's become, I thought there, because I remember one of my big concerns had been 2 administrators ago, was that what happens if we lose all that? And then it was like, no, that's the break, that's a norm being taught now to instructional leaders, not the exception. It's not like an optional course or you know, it's a standard course that all instructors, all teachers eventually have to do.
It's, just from my perspective, it's an expectation of our teachers
Okay.
to be teaching using differentiated instruction or using those techniques. And I think that's fairly common, certainly in Wyndham Central. I'm not aware of other districts, but it's certainly discussed at the administrative team level, Wyndham Central often, regularly. Sometimes debated about, you know, what exactly it means, what does it exactly look like, but always present.
You can't describe it, but I know when I see it.
Yeah, you can describe it too, but
Oh, okay.
you'll definitely know when you see it. You'll definitely know when you don't see it too.
So listen, it's 10 of, I think we're not getting anything new. So why don't we'll expand on this, we'll get this out to Anita and Peter, I'll try and get this to you so you can attach it to the minutes.
The statement, I think I got it.
No, I mean the whole thing.
Oh, good,
I'll
okay.
update this with some other notes that I took from some other comments made.
Will do.
And then we'll work on this again, next meeting in Wardsboro on the 5th. So, ooh, my computer. I think the next thing is new business. Anybody have any other new business we haven't covered? Okay, one quick thing, got a couple of these. I asked Laura to make
It's yours.
to do a letter, if you guys want any of this. Something that we could put in the town reports from this group. And it basically just says we're valued the school district is preparing for full educational operation on July 1st, 2019. The unified district is required to develop school district policies, adopt curriculum, educational programs, assessments, measures, negotiate contracts, set the school calendar, prepare and present budgets, prepare for the annual meeting and transact any other lawful business. River Valley board members are, boom. And then general meeting schedules, and then where you can find out more information, and it's Rick and I.
There's literally nothing in here that was not on the blog post.
So I think if we can get that into the town reports and maybe just at town meeting, if we want to just give people a heads up on what you want. So everybody good with that? No changes? Okay. I don't have any update on the contractual update, so unless somebody just wants to stay to smile at each other. He's smiling, so he wants to stay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Laura moved, Carrie seconds, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.